You think you're lazy. You think you're broken. You think you're not disciplined enough, not focused enough, not hungry enough. You look at your unfinished tasks, your half-built routines, your goals that once lit you up, but now feel like burdens. And you think, what happened to me? Where did the fire go? Why can't I stay consistent? Why does everything feel heavy? So you push harder. You try to motivate yourself with shame. You make another to-do list. You watch another video. You promise yourself that this time you'll change. And for a few hours, maybe a few days, you do. But then the same fog returns, the same numbness, the same fatigue. And again, you tell yourself, I'm just not motivated. But that's not true. You're not unmotivated. You're overstimulated. In a world where everything is designed to hijack your attention, your motivation isn't dying, it's drowning. Drowning in noise, drowning in information, drowning in dopamine. Every scroll, every notification, every short-form video, every rapid hit of novelty, it chips away at your capacity to focus. Your brain isn't broken, it's overloaded. Your body isn't lazy, it's overwhelmed. Your drive isn't gone, it's buried under layers of digital residue and unprocessed stimulation. You don't need more motivation hacks. You need less input. Carl Jung wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." Overstimulation is the modern way we avoid. Not with substances, but with screens. Not with chaos, but with endless consumption. Because when you slow down, when you finally unplug, when the noise dies, something else rises. The parts of you that you've been avoiding. The doubts, the grief, the emptiness, the truth. And it's easier to watch 50 reels than sit with your shame. It's easier to absorb more content than face the silence of your own unmet desires. But here's the catch. The more you run from the silence, the louder the noise has to get. And eventually it drowns, not just your discomfort, but your direction. Motivation doesn't live in the noise. It lives in the stillness. And overstimulation is the enemy of stillness. Because your nervous system can't access clarity when it's flooded. And when you're constantly stimulated, your baseline shifts. What once lit you up now feels dull. What once excited you now feels slow. Because your brain has been trained to expect fireworks, not firewood. But real work is firewood. It's slow, it's steady, it's repetitive, it's boring. And if your system has been trained for constant novelty, you'll confuse that boredom for failure. But it's not failure, it's depth. And depth requires space. Space requires disconnection. Disconnection requires courage. And that's what most people avoid. Let's go deeper. In Jungian terms, the self, your whole integrated self, can only emerge when the ego quiets. But the ego thrives on stimulation. The ego wants to perform, to prove, to be seen, to control. And in a world of constant input, the ego is constantly fed. Fed likes, fed outrage, fed opinions, fed urgency. And the more it's fed, the louder it gets. Until you can't hear the self anymore. Until your decisions are no longer coming from your truth, but from what gets the most attention. What feels safest, what looks most validated. And that Jung would say is the death of individuation, the death of the inner journey, the soul replaced by the algorithm. So, how do you reclaim your motivation? You detox your nervous system from stimulation. Not with a new productivity app, not with a new routine, but with subtraction. You start by cutting noise. Try this 1 day a week, no social media, just one. Notice what comes up. Anxiety, boredom, good. That's the withdrawal. That's the addiction leaving your system. That's what you've been running from. And once you feel that, and stay, you start to return to yourself. Then limit novelty. Dopamine is not the enemy, but how you spend it is. Every time you switch tabs, check your phone, change songs, jump apps, you burn your focus. So choose intentional friction. Read long form. Watch content without skipping. Have conversations without background noise. Walk without headphones. Give your brain space to settle. That's where real ideas come from. Not from more input, but from integration. Next, create before you consume. This changes everything. Before you check messages, scroll, watch, respond, create something, anything. A sentence, a sketch, a voice note, a workout, a prayer. Doesn't matter. What matters is that your energy moves outward before it gets hijacked. This reclaims your creative authority. It reminds your system that you're not just a consumer, you're a creator. Also, stop calling it laziness. It's disrespectful to your nervous system. You're not lazy. You're overstimulated, underrested, underconnected. Rest isn't scrolling. Connection isn't comments. Clarity isn't more research. Real rest is stillness. Real connection is presence. Real clarity is born when the noise stops and the signal returns. Now here's a practical exercise, the dopamine audit. For 1 week, track your top 5 sources of stimulation. Social media, podcasts, news, YouTube, caffeine, whatever it is. Write down how often you reach for each. Then on day 7, pick one and remove it for 48 hours. Watch what happens, not just outside, inside. The urges, the mood, the resistance. That's your system recalibrating. Let it. Second exercise. Build boredom tolerance. Yes, you heard that right. Sit for 15 minutes a day. No phone, no book, no music. Just sit, feel, breathe. Let the layers rise. This builds stillness capacity. The more you can hold nothing, the more you can hold everything, including motivation. Third, set stimulation boundaries. Try input fasting. First hour of the day, no input. Last hour, no input. Guard the gates of your mind. What you feed it matters more than what you say to yourself. You can't affirm peace while consuming chaos. Fourth, reconnect to slowness. Walk without tracking steps. Cook without distraction. Journal without an agenda. Talk without checking the clock. Do something that doesn't scale. This heals the inner speed wound, the belief that faster is always better. Because faster isn't better. It's just louder. And loud doesn't mean alive. Carl Jung believed the soul speaks through dreams, images, patterns, not speed, not urgency. And when we're overstimulated, we lose access to those symbols. We become literal, anxious, fragmented. But when we slow, really slow, the unconscious begins to whisper again. And those whispers, they're your true motivation. They're the voice beneath the noise. The voice that doesn't scream, but calls. You're not a machine. You're not meant to be plugged in 24/7. You're a living field of energy, constantly absorbing, processing, transforming. And if you don't empty that field, you block it. And blocked energy feels like depression, like fatigue, like apathy. But it's not brokenness, it's buildup. And the antidote to buildup isn't more doing, it's more releasing. So here's the question. If you removed 80% of your daily stimulation, what would your mind finally have space to remember? Comment your answer. This is where your real motivation lives, not in the next video, but in what you stop feeding and in what you start feeling. I'll see you in video 14, where we go from overflow to order.